Go!
Hi!
Hi! Hello, guys!
Hey!
Hello!
Eurovoxx
Hello!
here. Hey, I'm Dominic, and I'm joined by Clara, Harry, and Stu. Hi, how are you guys?
Hi, good.
Hello, good.
Very good. So, we have just seen UMK 2022, and we know the representative for Finland, and it's, Clara, say it.
Rasmus and Jezebel. I am so happy. I'm so excited.
Okay, first reaction. So, you're very happy about it. Stu, what do you think about it?
I think it's a deserved victory. Wasn't my favorite, but I think that after seeing all 7 performances, they definitely emerged as a strong contender. So yeah, I think it's deserved.
Okay, Harry, what do you think?
I would say it's a solid selection, a solid song. I'm going to be honest. While it was probably one of my favorites in the selection, looking at all the performances, I thought it was the weakest one on the night. But I'd say the song and the fan base of the Rasmus probably helped out a lot with its victory.
Yeah, probably.
To be honest, I agree with Harry. I think it wasn't the strongest performance of the night, but I'm quite sure it's going to grow on a Eurovision stage. I think the vocals need more reinforcement. The backing vocals need to be amped up, and it needs to just sound like fuller. And I think that is something that can be achieved on a Eurovision stage. We also don't know how it sounded inside the arena because UMK doesn't always have the best sound technicians for us watching internationally. So I think keeping that in mind, it would be a very good quality performance when it comes to Eurovision standards.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, and I think, oh, sorry.
Go for it.
Well, so I agree about the vocals. I think the vocals were not among the best. What at least I was, as far as like taking all the factors into consideration, I think that it was well supported visually. They at least had stage presence as well, which is important. And there was a lot of dynamic details to the visual part. Like there was development throughout the whole performance, and I think that it made it more impactful. And I think that it was, yes, we are taking into consideration that they are so popular, so they were kind of expected to do very well with the televote. In fact, a lot of people were thinking that they were going to win anyway. But I mean, they also won the jury vote, which is not something that everybody was expecting. So I think that it is, when taking all those factors into consideration, it makes it a little bit more deserved. But yeah, if we were looking at vocals only, then they, in my opinion, would not be that close to the top.
Yeah, I fully agree. So about the quality of the sound, I had some struggles with it within like a few performances, but not with the Rasmus. I think they were fine vocally. It was definitely an elevation because like Stu and I did a video beforehand about the Finland selection, and we were a bit skeptical, to be honest, about the Rasmus. But seeing them live really was amazing. I love the visuals because they had this yellow-black theme already in the music video, and they just translated that on the stage, and that worked very well. I love the microphone. Yellow is my favorite color, so props to them. And also, there was something going on. It wasn't static at all, so that was very good. And also, his vocals were good. And overall, I think they're a deserved winner, even though they were in the first running order spot, which is rare because usually that's not the place for a winner, but in this case it is. I would say we go to the comments. So we have a lot of reception. Alexander was begging for the Rasmus, and I mean, you are probably happy now because they have won. Kisa the same. Also very happy about it. I can't pronounce his name, but also the Rasmus was the favorite. I mean, we also have some disappointments. Why Bailey says it's the wrong winner, which is fair because I mean the selection was so strong. I didn't dislike a single song. So I mean every single song would have been a deserved representative, I think. Stu, what do you think about that?
I agree. I just also want to observe because Rye Bailey obviously comes to our videos a lot, and if I had to hazard a guess, this wouldn't be a Rye Bailey song. I'm sure that he would have been more keen for someone like BESS. But I agree, and that's
BESS and Hurricane.
And Hurricane. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I mean, it does show a really strong selection because although there was this whole precedent of the Rasmus having status and suggesting that they were going to do very well regardless, when watching all the performances, it still felt like it was hard to figure out where everybody would land because also BESS was a huge favorite, at least among the Eurovision fan base, and people were always talking about how her song was very highly streamed, one of the most, if not the most highly streamed. But it was a very competitive selection, and we saw tons of great songs that I personally am going to be listening to afterwards, and I'm sure that other people will join me in that as well. And also like one of the best visually speaking, because every single song has a unique visual identity, and it all feels so different. It's the best way to give variety to a really like short selection ultimately. And as we've said before as well, like in our last video, Dominic, the idea of doing it short and sweet, it really only works if you have if it's a strong competition. Because if it's like one that's a clear favorite and then all the others are kind of meh, then it's not that exciting.
Fully agree on that. So Vincent agrees as well. There were plenty of good performances, definitely. And we also have some others in the chat, like Boy who says hi, and I guess that's Finnish. I'm not a Finnish speaker. I only know the word kankaranta, and that's it.
Because we practiced it so many times.
I had 2 years to practice it.
And what does that mean?
No, that's the last name of Axel, Kankaranka.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, true. I remember this.
Good. So Klaas is very happy as well. Finland has done it again. And remember, Finland finished 6th last year, so there is a lot of pressure for the Rasmus now to place high as well.
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna say something. The best song of the night was Blind Channel's new song.
I liked it.
Bad Idea was the title.
Mm-hmm.
I also liked the opening in general because they performed Dark Side again, but in a different way. They did it like a more stripped back version with the ballad dances, and I really liked that because it was different. It wouldn't be like that great to perform it the exact same way as in Eurovision, so it was more exciting. Harry, did you like the opening act?
Yeah, I did like the opening act. I sort of had almost a little chuckle to myself when I realized how sort of it was almost self-aware, like the fact it's such a heavy rock song in Dark Side, and they've just gone, let's strip it back, let's have it almost like a ballad feel. And to be fair, even if Dark Side was a ballad, I still think it'd do fairly well in UMK. That's sort of how strong the song is. And yeah, their new single definitely, while probably I definitely prefer Dark Side, was also very easy, very good to listen to.
Yeah, I don't want to make that comparison now because I think you need a few times to listen to Jezebel before you can make a final judgment. But I really liked Blind Channel last year, and that's not a secret. And I know some of us weren't, but anyway. Yeah, for example, Ryan Bailey wasn't a fan of Blind Channel. But I mean, that's fair. We definitely agree with you, boy. Finland again shows a rock nation, a rock song. But as we said in the video before, I think Finland is allowed to do that because we already know that rock is a very popular genre, and it's not like, okay, just because it has been successful last year, so we need to send it for several more years. So that's not this year, definitely.
And while I definitely agree, we did say that if there's any country that's allowed to send rock like 2 times in a row, it would be Finland. But I also just hope that for the future years that they don't get stuck in that, because obviously people do associate rock with Finland. And I mean, yes, bring all the great rock songs that you want to UMK and compete with them. But I just, because we know that certain countries do get stuck in a formula, and we wouldn't want that. We want to see the same level of competition for Finland and the same level of variety.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I think Jezebel's results in Turin will probably impact how much rock we see in UMK and just in the future in general. Because obviously, Blind Channel finishing 6th and doing very well with the televote probably influenced a slight increase in rock songs. And even this year in UMK, the top 2 were rock songs, with the 3rd place even having a slight rocky edge to a pop variety.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very good point, definitely. But I think UMK also had a very diverse field. So we had Olivera, for example, or Ram Pam Pam, which is only a little bit of rock, I would say. So Finland had a choice. It's not like they had 7 rock songs, so I think that's fine.
Yeah.
And I mean, if the Finns want that, I mean, go ahead. It's not like they're selecting it internally the whole time. So I think that's totally fair. We have a very interesting question. Do you think the Rasmus could qualify from the semi-final? Just remember, it's in the second semi-final.
Yes, I think because they have a name, and it's actually because of who they are, honestly. I think if this song was sang by another unknown artist, the results could vary, and I wouldn't know. Like with the performance we've seen tonight, if an artist comes to Eurovision with that very sorry, I don't know this word in English. Not full power. I felt that the first performance we saw was not full power. Then I would have my doubts if it would qualify or not, especially because all of the bands we have this year. But it's the Rasmus. The production quality is going to be lifted. It's going to get higher. So I have no doubt that they are going to qualify. Everyone likes to see also a big name in Eurovision because it also shows some kind of respect for Eurovision.
Yeah, just remember the Rasmus had like a very famous song, Out of the Shadows, which is one of my favorite songs ever. I love this song. And I think Out of the Shadows is stronger than Jezebel. Doesn't mean that Jezebel is weak, though. And I kind of disagree here. I don't think the name by itself is the most important factor. I think the song can stand for itself, especially like the performance, which was, as I've already said, an elevation. So, and I think we already said that as well. Like we had a few big names flopping, and I don't think they will flop. I'm pretty sure they will qualify pretty comfortably, I think. But I don't think it's because they are the Rasmus. Harry, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, on the big name thing, I think Finland, of all countries, would probably know that sending a big name does not guarantee a qualification. I mean, just look to 2019 when they sent Darude. Not only did they not qualify, they came in last place. In terms of whether... Yeah, it didn't deserve last. In terms of the Rasmus, will they qualify? I think it's heavily likely. If they win semi-final 1, I would say almost 100%, but because they're in semi-final 2, I do think that's definitely a stronger semi-final at the moment. So I'm going to be cautious until I see their Eurovision staging, which will hopefully be elevated from UMK.
Can I reply to a comment that I've seen it's addressed for me? It's not underwhelming is not the word I was looking for, because if it was any other band, I would have been totally satisfied with the performance. I'm not underwhelmed with the Rasmus performance. I just think it needed a little bit of oomph. Doesn't mean that the performance was underwhelming. Thank you.
Yeah, and someone corrects me. It's in the shadows. I'm so sorry. But something with the shadow.
Same Eurovoxx doing the best.
Anyhow, so as we have already said, the Rasmus wasn't the only competing act in this selection. Runner-up was Cyan with the song Hurricane. So what's your opinion on that? Do they deserve the second place? And do you think maybe Hurricane would have been a better choice? Stu, go ahead.
So after seeing their performance, they to me seemed like the biggest threat to the Rasmus. I just felt like everything was there in terms of vocal performance. Visuals were some of the strongest. Much like the Rasmus, they had stage presence. That one was really solid. So I think that they definitely deserved their second place. spot. And honestly, I don't really have any complaints about it. I think there might have been ways in which they could have, created a few more moments, because it was this kind of constant stripe thing going on, and we did see some variations, like dipping from just black and white to red and black, and then they changed the orientation as well. But ultimately, I think that it was a deserved second place, and I would have been very happy if they would have ended up winning in the end.
I agree. I think I love the visuals. Someone in the band or in their team really understands visuals very well, because it was so eye-catching. But I think the visuals were stronger than the song. I love the whole package, but my only problem with Cyan Kicks is that I don't feel that there is any personality in the song lyrics. It's very generic. But I love what they built, and I love them as a band, and what they did with the staging is mind-blowing. Very artistic.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's fine. I almost did like a 360 in my opinion of the staging, because I think by the end of the first chorus I was thinking, I was kind of expecting a little bit more than just like the barcode background. It just seemed a little bit plain by that point. But I think definitely by the time it got to the guitar solo and the visuals, I was like, okay, well, this is fantastic visually. It really seemed like the slickest staging in terms of camera cuts and just the shots you got. I do think the lead singer's vocals could have been a tad better, maybe a bit more power. But going into this, Hurricane was my favorite song, and I would say this was probably my favorite performance of the night. So second place was deserved, I think, but I would have preferred this maybe to the Rasmus just a bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I preferred the song definitely over Jezebel, I'm not gonna lie. But the staging, it was a bit of a letdown. By the way, I love barcode style as a term because that's what it was, basically. That was my issue with it. So it was only black and white. In the beginning, that was nice. But after like the first chorus, it was a bit like, well, do you want to keep it that way the whole time? And then they only had this red light, which was cool. But we had that like with BESS, and I think with another one as well. So it wasn't like, wow, because we have seen it already. And there were 6 in running order. So that was something missing. And I remember that the music video was so cool because it was like this blue style. And I really loved that. I was a bit like sad that they didn't use that at all in the staging. About the vocals, they were good. I think they could have been better. But again, I think it wasn't like her problem or something. But the sound mixing was a bit off. The sound wasn't like blending in together very well, and I had that with a few performances, and yeah, so it was a bit underwhelming, but overall it was still very stunning. And as I've said, there wasn't a bad performance tonight, so I'm still happy, and I'm thinking like second place is the deserved place for them, and I hope they will come back.
Yes, indeed.
Definitely. So let's go to the comments. Oh, I need this now. Ryan Bailey thinks Hurricane is better, which makes sense considering the previous comment. Yeah, we also have other comments like numero was robbed. I mean, I knew it wasn't gonna win, but last in the televote. Yeah, they were last with 51 points and finished 6th overall. Yeah, I remember like numero was one of my favorites. And I loved the performance overall. Like the vocals were very nice, and just the song, I really loved that. I must say that the staging wasn't like a fan of it. The second half was strong, but the first half was boring. There was nothing going on, and which I really disliked was her outfit, because I think that didn't suited the song at all. What do you think about it, Stu?
With respect to the outfit, I don't actually remember specifically what it was, so I really have no complaints there. And usually, like, wardrobe is kind of lower on my list of things that I really pay attention to. But I agree about the staging feeling a bit bare towards the beginning, especially. And it did eventually change, especially when the band was, facing the back of the stage and had the crowd behind them. I thought that was a nice touch. In a way, I did appreciate the simplicity of it, because I think that the song was really beautiful, and it could have benefited from a simplistic approach. I do think that maybe it ended up being too simplistic, And what they could have done, because the sense that I got from the idea or the concept behind the stage was almost like dawn, like sunrise, because you're starting to get those slow emerging oranges and yellows at the very beginning. So I thought that maybe they could have expanded on that idea a little bit lightly. And then the other thing that caught my attention was that they had this rug underneath them that was kind of like, placed in a kind of a messy way where the folds are visible. And I wasn't sure exactly what they were going for there, but yeah, it was definitely lacking something, and I definitely wouldn't have thought of it as coming last with the televote. But I mean, there's only 7 songs, and we've already talked about how we all feel like the level of quality for all the songs is quite high, so someone does have to come last, unfortunately.
But overall, they came 6th, like Tommy was.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Clara, did you enjoy some more?
I did. It was, I never saw it when, but it's a song I really enjoy. The storytelling, I don't even need to understand the lyrics, but because she carries the whole storytelling very, very beautifully through her voice and her expression. And yes, it's a song for a more humble staging, for a more humble stage, for a more humble audience. It's staged appropriately to the aspirations of this song, if this makes sense. This is not a song for a huge Eurovision stage. This is a song for a more intimate place, like a cafe or a gala. And I think it fulfilled its potential in that sense. But I loved it, and her outfit was great, actually. I mean, it didn't...
It was good, but not for the song. That's my issue.
Exactly. Yeah. I would wear that, but like if I would go, I don't know, out, or I had to go to like, I don't know, a red carpet or something, but it didn't match with the delicacy of the song and the angst of having to forget someone. It's more like a revenge dress sort of thing.
Yeah, and the thing is, they had a carpet in the beginning, and then they had like an empty stage in the end. But you were literally seeing a staff member, like for 1 second.
Oh yeah.
And that was like, oh no, like the illusion is gone. That was maybe also an issue. Harry, what do you think?
Yeah, to be fair, I love the Sumero. One element of staging that will instantly get to my heart is if you have a beautiful light display. And at the end, where they became very anthemic, the lighting display was perfect. It was fantastic. I actually don't mind the subdued staging at the beginning. I would maybe make the camera angles tighter, just to, if you want to go for that cozy feel, make it even bigger. And yeah, I'd maybe swap out the carpet for, a campfire. I think would symbolize it more. If anyone watched Ireland's national final, what they did for the postcards, maybe something similar to that. But yeah, I was gutted when I saw this got lost with the televote, because I actually thought this was up there with one of the better stagings of the night, personally.
Okay, fair. So talking about tight camera angles, I think that's a guy who needs some appreciation. Stu, tell us.
So Isaac, yeah. It's so obviously this was one of my favorites, and not, as I mentioned, not just because of the bi themes, but because I thought it was one of the most contemporary songs, and people were making comparisons to like The Weeknd and Lil Nas X, and I made the comparison as well to Prince, at least when he had the guitar. So unfortunately, he wasn't. It wasn't vocally bad, but it wasn't as good as some of the other ones that we saw. Because some of them, I have to say, were really flawless. But with respect to the staging, I love the idea. It's similar to another UMK performance that we saw 2 years ago with Sansa and Love Review, where I was so in love with the concept, but it just fell. In some ways, it fell a little bit flat with the execution. And really, with this song, we had a lot of close-ups, and they were, in my opinion, going for like a nightclub feel, hooking up at a nightclub kind of thing, which I loved. But it felt like it needed some wide shots to just give it some time to breathe, because it felt very close for a little bit too long and
intimate.
and intimate, yeah, but like you know how they talk about peaks and valleys, right? Like I think that you do just need those moments to breathe and kind of take in the surroundings, because the other thing too is that there wasn't really like an establishing shot, right? It started really tight on him, and then we didn't really get anything wider until a little bit later. But I still love the song. I love the concept. I think that this is a great way to do you know, to do sex appeal. It's not an obvious way to do sex appeal, but I think that they did it in a very creative way, and I'm still at least satisfied with how it went.
I agree. I wrote down like sexy.
Yeah.
Naughty boy.
Naughty boy.
I love the fact, like his outfit. I love the fact that he like the boundaries between the genders were like mixed up. So he looked very like both male and female, and I really like the aesthetics of that. So that was a big plus. And I also like the fact that he like took a risk, because I didn't really remember a single performance with these kind of camera angles. And there were a few misses, I think, because at some point you were literally seeing nothing, or like just like this, and he was like this, so you barely saw him, and I was like, that's probably not the intention. So because of the tight camera angles, you really need to hit every single mark, because otherwise it's not working. And in some angles it wasn't. But overall, it was so cool. I loved the song. I loved him as an artist. I also like the breathy voice, because that suits the song perfectly. And I think he can be proud about this performance overall. Harry, were you a fan of that?
I mean, to be honest, my main thought after that performance was, what time is this going out in Finland? Because in the UK, that performance would not go out before 9 p.m.
It's 2 hours. It's 2 hours after the UK time.
All right, so it'll be all right then. It'll be all right. I can safely say that in the, I think, 2 years I've been watching national final performances, I have never seen a performance like Isaac's. It definitely is memorable. Definitely stands out. I'd probably say it was it might not have been for me personally. There was times near the end where I was like, okay, this is a bit too distracting from the song, maybe a tad too much. I get the feel. I get there is an audience for it, but it just wasn't for me personally by the end. But the idea, I think, was executed the way he wanted it.
For me, it felt that this should have been the actual video clip, and I commend him I salute him for trying to get this right live, because it's as you said, Dominic, it's very complicated to hit the mark, and I think some of the angles missed a little bit, but the overall intention is very clear, and it's really everyone that is quite familiar with this, it knows how hard it is. So I like the visuals. I actually like that they were distracting from the song, because for me it's not my it was my favorite song. It's not my style of music, but I like his charisma, and I like the intention behind the visuals.
Okay, so Ryan Bailey was a fan of the song, and we also have a comment that the song was great, but it was 80s and new at the same time, and I think that's a common thing in the current charts.
You know what I found very, very funny? That he said twice his intention is not to provoke.
Not to provoke.
Not to make people uncomfortable, yes.
Okay. Another detail that I liked is that I guess that he must have been misted before he started, because the Kuuma jäbä translates to hot ice, and to give off that kind of steamy vibe to make it look like he was sweaty. There are certain details that I thought were really, really great. It did unfortunately miss not a cohesive element, but as we mentioned, issues with some of the executions with landing on marks and stuff. But yeah, I still really, really liked it.
Yeah, we also have some negatives here, like saying that it was a bit a letdown because of the pronunciation. The first part was mumbled. Honestly, didn't realize that, because I'm not a Finnish speaker yet. So
yeah, he was very distracted with other visuals.
Yeah, plus I was like, hello. So I wasn't paying attention, but maybe you were speaking Finnish and you can judge that. So that's fine. And we also have Yeah, go ahead.
Well, one thing I want to say, which was evident in Isaac's performance, but then also I think a little bit in BESS's and maybe some other ones, is that the use of pre-recorded vocals. At first, like I understood why they introduced it, at least when talking about Eurovision, because I know that some national selections have always allowed it. It's becoming more and more clear that people are really leaning on this now, and now I'm starting to hope that they will, when it's feasible to do so, revoke this or at least change it, because it is frustrating when there are certain moments that are backing track. And in Isaac's song, he had certain moments where he could have demonstrated his vocals a little bit more and maybe even eased into those lower parts a bit better. So yeah, I don't know. I know it's kind of sort of irrelevant to what we're talking about specifically now, but it is something that caught my attention in this selection.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we will have this discussion when it comes to Eurovision, because that will be an issue again, definitely. So we have like another negative thing about Isaac, because they were like claustrophobic, and I think like Stu already made a comment about it. Like it was very tiny, and I like that somehow, but for some it was maybe a bit too much. So
I think it can. I think that can work in some cases. The example I would sort of say is where it doesn't work if you expand it out at the end is Leslie Roy's performance last year with Maps. You had this like tight space with all the visuals, and I think when you actually opened it up and saw the whole stage, it just didn't work in terms of the visuals that you've seen almost got lost. So I can understand why they kept it sort of minimalistic and didn't maybe do an establishing shot at the end like maybe most performances would.
And I think also what they were going for was because this is about like hooking up, right? There's a way of communicating anonymity by not showing the faces, because you are going to show Isaac's face at least because he's the performer, but by not showing the faces mostly, because I did catch like one of the female dancers' faces, but ultimately to be obscuring most of them, I think wasn't intentional. So so as to add to the feel of it. But yeah, again, ambitious idea that I think should be commended for that reason.
Yeah, and also maybe it fits like into this. It doesn't matter who it is, just make love, you know. So Vincent was like, no love for Olivera. Of course, there's love for her. So
yeah,
thank God I'm an atheist. Literally best vocals of the night. I
totally
love the vocals. It was so good. I really liked that, and I preferred that over the studio version, but that has already been very good. So it elevated, and I'm happy that she was there. Stu, I remember that she was one of your favorites.
It was, yeah, and I absolutely agree with you about the vocals. They were the best. Other people came close, but hers were the best. They were really like absolutely flawless. And it was a performance that was well supported by visuals. I do feel like it could have been a little bit more impactful, and they could have done that by maybe doing some brief momentary flashes, like strobing moments when the kick drum hits. But overall, pretty good. Again, we know how competitive this selection was, so there could only be one winner. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and apart from that lack of impact, I don't really have anything else to make note of.
I liked the performance, as it was definitely the best vocals of the night, the most surprising, because with the first, the ones before her, we could notice that there was a big difference between the track and the live performance. But hers, for me, she sounded exactly like I was used to hearing on the track. And that was a very, very pleasant surprise. I think the big factor is that her track is quite stripped back. It's like her voice with no effects, like no echoes, no chorus, no doubled voices, double vocals. So that's the plus of that's a good side of having a very raw vocal on the track.
Mm.
I think visually the performance was a bit slow and empty. Like there could have been many elements, because we were very entertained watching the thing burn. I don't know how the match burn for a very long time. and that was entertaining, and also it was a little bit of tension there. Is she gonna get burned? What's gonna happen? But after that, then it's like I don't know. It was like a fish tank effect. It's just like her floating.
Fish tank effect. Okay. Harry.
Barcode effect and fish
Yeah,
tank
I'm
effect.
learning so many terms. It is already like I'm good.
To be fair, Clara, you mentioned the slight nervousness you get as the match was going closer. I have a slight fear of fire, so I definitely felt that nervousness near the end of that match. I'm going to slightly disagree on the vocals because I had one nitpick at times.
Mm-hmm.
On the studio version, her vocals are very sort of not haunting is the word, very like magical in that sense. Probably because of the like higher pitch, which is one of the main parts of the studio track that I liked. In the live, while they were present for good portions of it, there were times I think in the chorus where probably due to it being live, she added a bit more power and made the vocals slightly deeper. There was slightly less hauntingness and beauty to them, which was lacking. But yeah, overall, I think this was definitely elevated staging wise. I would say this has, rather than the best vocals, I think this has the best sort of like first minute, 40 seconds of any of the performances. Because again, yeah, from the camera angles and just the visuals, we were so captivated by what she was singing and what she was doing. I do think they could have progressed a little bit more as the song went on, because by like the second minute, because of the song structure, you do notice it gets a little bit the same. But this is another one where Olivera elevated the song from studio to staging overall.
Yeah, okay, so we have some positive feedback. She has a unique voice, and I stick to it. I think she was the best of the night vocally. Ray Bailey is also a fan of her. And by the way, Isaac's song doesn't mean hot eyes, but hot dude.
Noted.
I'm disappointed. You should have known that.
They are Finnish. Everyone's cold as ice. Like they're like snowmen. It's ice, men, snowmen, ice.
And what a great opportunity to tell people that we do not have any Finnish members of our team. So if you'd like to come on our team, if you know lots about Eurovision and you've got some skills in video making or journalism, let us know, because we'd love to have these contexts and not depend on Google all the time.
Don't tell our secret. I mean, we're all Finnish speakers.
Yes.
So, talking about Finnish, we had a lot of Finnish songs. 3 out of 7. I mean, that's decent. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Was it 3 or 4?
Isaac, BESS, and Tommi. So.
And
Younghearted.
Out of 7. Oh, pardon. Yeah. I mean, we haven't talked about BESS yet. So I think we should do it now. She was one of the favorites, and I think she's still like very high in the Finnish charts, if not like number 1 or something. Mm-hmm. So there was a little bit of hype in there. So do you think she was keeping up with the expectations, Harry?
Yeah, I mean, this was another one which, for me, as someone that wasn't necessarily a massive fan of the song, it was one that was heavily elevated by staging. I mean, she did make me feel a bit like an idiot at the start, because one of the first words I said after the opening 10 seconds was, okay, I'm not really sure this flower theme fits the song. But then after the first chorus, I was like, makes sense. One thing I really appreciated is, and I noticed this from just watching other national finals, including Australia's one earlier today, is what BESS did that others didn't is, when you've got a song that is as punchy and has got as many like quick changes and as fast beats as Ram Pa Pan does, the fact that she used as many beats as possible to make a memorable moment, I really appreciated that, because I think there's a few artists this national final season that have sort of lost that in their staging, where they've been a bit more smooth when they needed to be bit more sharp, bit quick. So that was something that really caught my eye and made this package very visually pleasing. And I mean, we talked about the best first minute. BESS probably had the best last minute. There was so much stuff just going on in terms of like the fire cannons, the powerful vocals. It almost felt like the song kept going on and on. I was like, I'm not sure this is 3 minutes. One thing I did feel bad for, I might be wrong here. I'm pretty sure in one of the cannons failed to launch at the correct time for one of them. That's a slight nitpick, but considering this was my last place before UMK, the actual performances, this was one that, again, was elevated heavily by staging.
For me, I'm gonna disagree a little bit with you. I love the moments where like the bats were like cannoning and so on, and I think it was visually very strong. But that did take away from her vocals, and for me, some of her vocals were not as good. That she was a little bit flat on the high notes, which is where for me most of the power of the song relies on. But and then it was a little bit chaotic at some point, but this was my second favorite song and my guilty pleasure of the whole final before I saw the performance. And I think she could have arranged things a little bit better because, the overall, if I think about the performance, the overall sense I have is chaos. But there's like the shot where all of them are like firing that one is amazing. That for me saved the whole performance. But I would have liked to see maybe her vocals stand out a little more. Maybe it's what you said, Stuart, that the sound mix was not the best in this song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm kind of in between both of you in the sense that, I mean, this was a song that I liked, and it ended up being among my favorites kind of towards the end. I do agree with the chaos of it. It felt like maybe they did a little bit too much, but I like what you said, Harry, about having that importance of punctuating the beats, right? With choreography, with the pyrotechnics as well. I think that it does make a difference, especially when that's part of your chorus, right? The whole rum, bum, 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 bum. Like it makes it more memorable. And for me, I guess I just would have wanted to see a little bit more cohesion with the color scheme. This one felt a little bit more scattered, whereas the rest, like especially the Rasmus's performance was, very tight in that respect. And then others, Isaac's performance was very tight with that. This one felt a little bit more all over the place. I feel like maybe the dancers should have had, more. They should have been wearing something that was a little bit more together. I know that eventually they take off a layer, and then I think they had all the same color palette. But I think that there might have been a little too much going on here. Ultimately, I think it was an enjoyable performance, and I'm glad that she came third overall.
So about the colors, I was about to say I love the colors.
Oh.
Well, like, literally, I was like, well, they were all in the different colors, and I like that because like a few others were like pretty similar in terms of the colors, like white and black, and red were like the dominant colors of the night, I would say. And I mean, she was like, no, fuck it, I'm gonna like do everything in different colors. And I mean, like her performance kind of reminded me of a slow-mo from Chanel, because like every move or every like beat or every word basically has some kind of movement. So that was impressive, and I like that. I also like the elaborated camera angles, because one of them was like between her legs, like she was looking down, and then that was cool.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, and overall she had sass. I liked her attitude, and it was a lot of fun. And I mean, we were talking about Eurovision, so of course it's chaotic at some point, right? That's why we love it. So there's nothing to complain about it, I guess. So coming back to the comments, BESS was fantastic after performance. That's very appreciated. And then love BESS, and I really hope she's going to be back next year. And I'm pretty sure you're not the only one here. And before we move on to Tommi, because we haven't talked about him yet, Vincent says that Harry is very analytical, and he's impressed, and he's not the only one.
Thanks, Vincent.
And yeah, and I think now it's time to talk about Tommi. he was the closer of the show, which was a bit surprising. I'm not sure. Do you know that whether the running order was random or was it like scheduled?
I don't know for sure, but I think they probably would have chosen the performer, like chosen the order.
Yeah, because I was about to mention it, like because it was like Olivera, very stripped back, and then it was like ram pam pam, and then it was some numero. So I like that mixture, but yeah, and Tommi was in the end. So I would say I liked his performance. I liked the rotating platform. That was cool. And I think his vocals were very solid and basically like literally like in the music video. I think it was like, I couldn't hear any difference. So that was cool. And I loved his hair. Yay.
Yay.
Again, about the song, yeah, we knew someone has to be last. And I think I'm happy that he got quite a decent televote. I think the jury was a bit too harsh, the jury results. But I'm happy that he got points eventually. Clara, were you a fan of Tommi?
Yes, I really liked his song and I really enjoyed his performance. Maybe I didn't like the platform. I think it was a very basic way to fill the stage with something. But like his overall performance, I liked it. I enjoy his voice very much. It's like this classic rock, Bryan Adams style. The song reminded me a little bit to Summer of '69. And I don't know, I like this kind of music and I liked the performance. I knew this song wasn't going to Eurovision and this performance was not going to Eurovision, but I enjoyed those 3 minutes very much.
Yeah, that's more or less where I'm at. And I remember when we talked about the songs, Dominic, this was really the only one that I kind of relegated as not in the running, and not because it was bad or anything, but because, you know, I believe his purpose for being there was more so to, you know, show the kids how it's done, right? And he did. He was one of the best vocal performers of the night. And I do like the visual elements that they included. I mean, the rotating platform, maybe a little bit gimmicky, but I mean, it's not the only one who's going for gimmicks either. Yeah, I think it was overall pretty good.
No, I was just like, well, in Germany, we had a band called Sisters, or like a duo.
Yeah.
They had a rotating platform, and I mean, they won with that. So hey.
Oh, why'd you remind me of that?
You're so welcome, Harry. What is your opinion?
Joyful 3 minutes of Sisters.
To be fair, from the first listen of this song, I always thought, as long as you have in the back of your mind that this is not going to win, you can enjoy this very easily. I will say, going back to something you said about the running order, it being last, I think it's a similar situation to, if you think about the Melodifestivalen in Sweden, they always have sort of a fun, not necessarily a contender near the ends. Like, for the life of me, I'm not going to be able to pronounce their name, but like 2 of the last 3 years, they've had that like older 4-piece band that closes Melodifestivalen. I can't remember their name, but yeah, that's sort of what Tommy's role, I think, was. And you can really tell that Tommy's a seasoned performer. He knows how to, you know, work a crowd and sell a song. And I did think it was very sweet that the band who wrote the song, the fact they'd never wrote a song for anyone else, they decided, you know what, we want to write a song specifically for Tommi. And you wouldn't be able to tell that Tommi didn't write this because it's so tailor-made. You can tell that he really buys into what this song is. And yeah, I agree with you, Dominic. I think 4 points was very harsh for a jury score. And while I'm not necessarily thrilled that it scored higher than Younghearted in the televote, I was happy it got a much higher televote. It deserved that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think also the international jury didn't know who Tommi was, and Tommi has a huge career in Finland.
And also too, I think that for a lot of selections, the jury is guided on, you know, having in mind what would be the best opportunity for Eurovision. And I think that the majority of people wouldn't have said it would be Tommi, despite how you know much he did sell his song and how great his performance was. I think when looking at all the options, if you're going to go into, you know, ranking the songs in order with that in mind, then I don't think he would have been that big of a priority, unfortunately.
But I also think he was the one that enjoyed his performance the most, like performing on stage the most. You could sense that he is a man of the stage.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. So about the voting, we had some surprises. For example, like Cyprus's Elena Stakrino gave like 12 points to Olivera, and Eurovoxx wasn't expecting that. And I mean, we had the jury votes were quite spread, so it wasn't obvious. So I mean, the Rasmus won eventually the jury vote, but I think the 12 points were quite spread out. Were you surprised about that?
I have to be honest. I missed some of the jury voting. I did catch the very end of it. But I mean, I would expect, again, in a selection where you feel like it is very competitive, I would expect there to be that kind of thing where the designated top song in each country is different.
Yeah, I agree. So we have a comment like, okay, it's interesting that jury gave Rasmus 12 points, considering the background about it's not that radio friendly. Sorry, I had to. I kind of disagree here. I think Jezebel is okay. I think Jezebel is quite radio friendly. I would say that. It's a
very radio friendly
rock song.
Yeah, very.
Yes, that's possible. The radio doesn't consist of pop songs only, so yeah.
Well, it's radio friendly for us that are above 20, and we've grown listening to rock songs in the radio mixed with pop songs. I'm not sure how the radio stations look right now because I stopped listening to the radio a few years ago because I use Spotify. So for me, it's radio friendly because it's the kind of music because I was listening to the radio in 2003 when In the Shadows came out. So this is it's like continuation of what I listened to when I was in my 15s.
No, I agree. It does have radio friendly qualities to it. The thing that I guess always made me skeptical from when we first heard these songs was that the concept of writing a song with and giving it the title with a woman's name is like one of the oldest cliches in rock music. And one thing that we cut out from that video was that I found it very similar to the song Poison by Alice Cooper with the kind of building. Do you know that one?
Yes, because it's the same writer.
Oh, is it? Oh, there you go.
Yeah, of course. And you're not the first person to mention me. I have a friend that he doesn't follow Eurovision, but he listened to this song and he was like, this sounds exactly like Poison. And I said, good ears, because it's written by the same guy.
Yeah, because it's the your touch. Like, yeah. Anyway, I'm happy to have learned that right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I definitely need to look up this song now because like this.
Yeah, same.
This performance was quite pleasing, so I have to look up this song. Okay, so I mean we're almost an hour, so maybe we make a conclusion like, okay,
we wrap up.
Soon. But first, so we already said we're quite comfortable about like getting to the final with this song. Considering that this will be the case, where do you think it will place? Do you think it will be like more on the left-hand side or on the right-hand side? What is your prediction?
It depends on how bad the other countries do. Or how bad the other countries like.
You can literally
not how good they do, how bad they do.
UK still to come.
That's the spirit.
Well, if it's the only rock song that managed to qualify from the final, then it will be like on the top 10, because then all of the rockers will agree to vote on this rock song.
So let's go through that. So we have the Rasmus, we have Achille Lauro, and we have Bulgaria. Do you have any other rock songs? I know we have other bands, but rock songs?
I'm going to include bands there because visually it will be very similar.
Right. Okay. And there are quite a few bands this year. So yeah, like basically the way that I see it is that there are the ingredients here to get into the top 10. I don't think that it's going to do quite as well as Blind Channel did last year. And I think that even with, like, let's say this and San Marino gets into the semifinal, because I think everybody has kind of written off Bulgaria at this point. But I think that they would still be different enough to not necessarily pull points away from each other. I think that between the two, the Rasmus would rank higher than Achille Lauro.
Depends on how many straight and gay people are watching, honestly. No, like it is true.
yeah, we should like. I mean, Eurovision is like pretty much a very like the gay celebration of music, I would say.
Mhm.
But I think overall, I think it really depends on the other songs, as we have said.
Mhm.
So San Marino is in the semi-final as well, in the second, and also Georgia, like they are sending this band, like I have the name here, Circus Mercus,
Mhm.
and I'm kind of sure that they were gonna send a rock song as well. So if they all advance to the final, they might cancel each other out. But you can say that in general, because remember last time, I mean, Italy was rock and Finland was rock, and they both finished in the top 6, and Italy actually won this. So I'm not sure if it really has that much of an impact overall. So yeah. Any other predictions? I mean, you don't need to because we only have half of the songs, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess that's it. Thank you, Clara. Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Stu. Pleasure to talk to you. And yeah, see you again very,
Soon.
very soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
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 Bye. Now I have to find the button. There it is.